All right. Very good afternoon, to all the members, our friends, guests. It couldn't been held at a better time if you look at the Hang Seng Index today, if you are concerned about China market, right? But we are not going to talk about the stock market today. It's a very rare opportunity that we look at the longer term stuff. And regarding the pivotal meeting 2 months ago, and which laid out a series of interim goals for China to 2029 and the final grand blueprint for 2035. And it's a very rare opportunity that we can hear from Beijing directly. Though I believe many of the press members have met Counsellor Huang because he has covered the city's newsroom pretty extensively. But to earn my lunch, I better do my proper introduction, so bear with me. Counsellor Huang Jingrui has been the spokesperson of the Commissioner's Office of the Foreign Ministry of the People's Republic of China in Hong Kong Special Administrative Region since September 2022. He joined the Chinese Foreign Ministry in 1993 and worked for 10 years at the Press, Communication, and Public Diplomacy Department. During his illustrious 3-decade diplomacy career, he served as economic officer at the Chinese mission to the United Nations in New York from 1998 to 2002. The political director at Chinese Embassy in Jamaica from 2010 to 12, and press officer at the Chinese Embassy in the US in Washington, D.C. from 2012 to 15. He also worked as torch relay liaison officer from 2007 to 8 in the Beijing Olympic Organizing Committee. I believe many of you, if you are from the same generation serving in the newsroom, those days were probably one of the highlights in our media careers. And Counsellor Huang was educated at Jilin University, Nankai University, and University College London, where he was awarded Chivering Scholarship. Without further ado, I think I will leave the floor to Counsellor Huang. Let's put our hands together to welcome him.
Thank you, Mr. Lee, President Lee Williamson, members of FCC, colleagues from diplomatic corps, friends from the media, and from all walks of life. Good afternoon. I think I accepted this invitation to talk today because, well, not only just because yesterday's stock rally, but I think October 1st is just less than a week away. And I think it's the right time to talk about, well, today's topic is the Third Plenum. Well, it's the right time to talk about the PRC's path before it, China's path before it, and after that. I'm not an economist. I'm not a politician. So the topic may seem too grand for me, but I'm still offering my perspective as a Chinese diplomat, an ordinary CPC member, and a witness to China's transformation since 1970s. First, I would like to briefly look back to the modern history of China. As you know, back in 1840s, China was left in a shambles after the Opium War, and losing this island we are standing on was just the beginning. For the next century until 1949, China and its people was torn by colonialism, foreign aggression, and civil wars. Hard time called for savers who would be up to the formidable task of fighting off foreign aggression, ending colonialism, and restoring peaceful life. There was no hope for the blindfolded Qing dynasty, who attempted with self-strengthening movement and the 100-day reform. Sun Yat-sen had a nice try with the founding of a republic, but Kuomintang eventually failed for its weaknesses, especially its corruption. It was the Communist Party of China, which was born in 1921, that brought China back on track. It did so by combining Marxism and Leninism with China's reality, and by bringing together capable Chinese aspiring for peace and stability in their homeland. After the founding of the new People's Republic in 1949, the CPC took upon itself yet another daunting task to rebuild a poverty-stricken, largely rural China with 600 million people. In the years of Cold War, it was not easy to navigate the international geopolitical landscape, fumbling for ways through trial and error. It was not until the epoch-making Third Plenum of the 11th Central Committee in 1978, under the leadership of Deng Xiaoping, that the CPC hit the right path. Within 40 years of reform and opening up, China's economy exploded by 223 times, and its GDP per capita by 37 times. This is nothing short of a miracle. Hong Kong also played an important role and boomed as a super connector between the mainland and the world. However, no country can sustain 10+% GDP growth for 40 years. The growth of a huge economy like China will eventually fall down to a new normal, as other middle and high-income countries did. When Xi Jinping was elected, the General Secretary of the party at the 8th Party Congress in 2012, marking the beginning of the new era, Chinese leadership already realized that the reform and opening up was entering a deep water zone with all the low-hanging fruits already picked. What kinds of challenges the party and the country were facing back then? As Xi Jinping reflected in his report at the 20th Party Congress in 2022, he said inside the party, there have been some deeply shocking cases of corruption. China's economy was beset by acute structural and institutional problems, and development was imbalanced, uncoordinated, unsustainable, and the traditional development model could no longer work. Tightening resource and environmental constraints and the environment pollution were pronounced. Basically, he says that we have unbalanced development means income gap, and we have corruption and the pollution. And he also mentioned one country, two systems, the institutions and mechanism for implementing the policy of one country, two systems in Hong Kong and Macau were not well developed, and China faced grave challenges to its national security. With these challenges in mind, the Third Plenum of the 18th Central Committee in 2013 issued decision of the CCCPC on some major issues concerning comprehensively deepening the reform and made the most thorough and systematic adjustments to China's political, economic, cultural, social, and the military systems. And that makes that plenum another epoch-making event. Under the new leadership during the new era since 2012, China has ushered in over 3,100 measures of reform. What has China achieved? It achieved moderate prosperity, or in Chinese, 小康, by doubling both its GDP and the GDP per capita. It eradicated poverty by lifting nearly 100 million rural population out of it, which constitutes a major contribution to the mankind. It started the Belt and Road Initiative, which has become a popular platform of international cooperation. It added more quality, equality, efficiency, and sustainability to development, turning the tide of worsening environment pollution. And of course, you can see here, the central government helped Hong Kong out of chaos, restore order, and rekindle prosperity. The CPC has won a decisive war against corruption, eliminating a grave danger within the CPC, the state, and China's military. From the 18th CPC National Congress to meet 2022, over 4 million cases and 4 million people were investigated and reviewed for corruption by the disciplinary inspection and the supervision organs nationwide. Over 600,000 party and government officials were punished for discipline violation, including hundreds of senior officials, meaning vice ministers and up. With all these achievements, is China sitting back or lying flat and just enjoy? No way. As the CPC has put it, the reform will never end, and it is ongoing all the time. Some old issues remain, and new issues are coming up. Development are still far from even and complete. The high-quality development run into bottlenecks. The technological innovation is still lacking. The supply of food, energy, and the industries are not secure or reliable. The disparity between urban and rural areas and the income gap among people cannot be ignored. Various problems with regard to employment, education, healthcare, care for the young and old, housing all remain to be addressed. Not to mention international geopolitical change. In spite of all this, the CPC and the Chinese government are still striving to meet the objectives of, first, basically realizing socialist modernization by 2035, and second, building China into a great modern socialist country by the middle of this century, when China celebrates its 100th anniversary. To maintain the momentum of reform and opening up, the CPC had yet another epoch-making Third Plenum, and this is today's topic, the Third Plenum of the 20th Central Committee of the Communist Party of China. The plenum was convened in Beijing from July 15 to 18, and a total of 199 members and 165 alternate members of the Central Committee attended. At the session, the Central Committee adopted the resolution of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China on further deepening reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization. Xi Jinping delivered explanatory remarks on the draft version of the resolution. The most important result of the plenum is the resolution, which is actually season 2 of the decision adopted 11 years ago, with a further meaning the reform shall be continued, even strengthened. So what the resolution is like, there is no more authoritative explanation than President Xi's. According to his summary, the resolution consists of 15 sections, which may be divided into 3 main parts. The first section constitutes the first part and is a general exposition on the great significance and the general requirements of the further deepening reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization. Section 2 through 14 make up the second part, which elaborates on reform plans in specific fields such as economy, politics, culture, society, environment conservation, national security, and national defense. Section 15 is part 3, which focuses on strengthening the party's leadership over reform, deepening reforms related to party building, and combating corruption. The above content is laid out in a total 60 subsections with a view to achieving the goal of basically realizing socialist modernization by 2035. The resolution includes major reform measures for the coming 5 years until 2029. In terms of its layout and content, it features the following highlights. First, giving play to the leading role of economic structural reform. Economic structural reform has priority in further deepening reform comprehensively. The main tasks here include improving the systems and the mechanisms for enabling high-quality development, fostering new growth drivers and strengths, upholding and fulfilling the commitments to the public and the non-public sectors, building a unified national market, and refining the system underpinning the market economy. Second, developing support institutions and mechanisms for all-around innovation. The resolution places emphasis on deepening comprehensive reform in education, science, and technology, and talent development. Third, advancing reform in a comprehensive manner. This concerns deepening reform with regard to democracy and rule of law, the cultural sector, improving people's well-being, social security, and ecological conservation. Fourth, balancing development and security imperatives. So from the above summary, we can see that the resolution and the plenum is mainly about reform deepening that started since 2013 and is mostly about economic reform with plans in other sectors included. It shows China's determination to carry on with the reform and opening up. The resolution stresses that opening up is a defining feature of Chinese modernization. We must remain committed to the basic state policy of opening to the outside world and continue to promote reform through opening up. We will enhance our capacity for opening up while expanding international cooperation and develop new institutions for a higher standard open economy. When the resolution just came out, I noticed some comments by Western media like, "There's nothing new, there are no details." Such comments only betray their poor knowledge of how the CPC works. It is true that the important party documents like this usually don't carry much don't carry many details because they are master plans. With this master plan in place, the central government and its ministries, provinces, municipalities will formulate their own plans respectively according to their responsibility and the situation on the ground. One recent example is the Party Committee of Beijing announced last week its implementation plan of the resolution with 58 tasks. Actually, further reform and opening up has been carried out before and after the plenum. The following are just some examples. There have been multiple reductions in the negative list for foreign investment access and in entry requirements for sectors such as telecommunications and healthcare. Early this year, 3 Chinese ministries announced that China would allow the establishment of wholly foreign-owned hospitals in Hainan province and 8 cities, including Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen. I think it is rare to see a country opening its healthcare sector when you can see a lot of headlines about doctors' general strikes around the world. Earlier this month, China also announced it will lower its tariffs to 0 to the least developed countries, 33 of them African countries. These measures aimed at expanding high-level openness benefit not just China, but also the world. About visa waivers, in June, China decided to expand its visa waiver policy to New Zealand, Australia, and Poland, in addition to some European and Asian countries. In July, China expanded its 144-hour visa-free transit policy to 37 cities for foreign nationals of 54 countries. Starting from July this year, non-Chinese permanent residents of Hong Kong and Macau will be able to obtain a 5-year travel permit with multi-entries to the mainland of China. About real estate policies, this year China has launched a series of real estate policies, for example, lowering mortgage interest rates, lowering the minimum down payment ratio, and implementing supportive policies to ensure housing delivery. The most recent action came just yesterday, with Chinese financial authorities unleashing the most aggressive stimulus package after the pandemic. The above examples show that Chinese government means business and is not wasting any time to implement measures as a follow-up to the resolution. So what does the resolution say about Hong Kong? Well, there's a devoted paragraph for Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. It says, harnessing the institutional strengths of the one country, two systems policy, we will work to consolidate and enhance Hong Kong's status as an international financial, shipping, and trade center, support Hong Kong and Macau in building themselves into international hubs for high-caliber talent, and improve relevant mechanisms to see the two regions playing a greater role in China's opening to the outside world. We will encourage cooperation between Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau in the Greater Bay Area by promoting closer alignment of rules and mechanism. To sum up, we will continue to uphold one country, two systems, enhance Hong Kong's status as an international financial, shipping, and trade center, and support Hong Kong to be an international talent hub and a super connector, and support its further cooperation with other cities within GBA. Lastly, as the plenum is a CPC event, I would like to add more words about the CPC. In the West, especially in some countries' Congress and the media, when someone's always trying to evoke a sinister, creepy image when uttering the words communist, communism, even comrade. The most recent example is a lady was just dubbed a comrade by her opponent. With the demonization in place, there has been a trend over the last decade that some Western politicians don't even bother to call Chinese government as Chinese government. Instead, they would just say Communist China. I think if there are KPIs for judging a party's performance, I will suggest two things. One is what it has done to its country and to its people. And the other is whether it has improved its country's standing and its people's well-being. Using these two standards, we can check out how the CPC has performed over its 100-plus year history. There is a Chinese song called "There Wouldn't Have Been New China but for the Communist Party." Some of you may have doubts, but it is a conclusion drawn from China's history since the Opium War. As I said, while the Qing government could not deliver, Kuomintang could not do the job, only the CPC made it. So firstly, the CPC's utmost achievement is ending China's century of humiliation and chaos. After the founding of the PRC, after years of fumbling and some twists and turns, the CPC found the right way, pull off miracles, and has stuck to the reform and opening up to this day. So secondly, it is bringing China from poverty to prosperity and modernization. As the Constitution of the CPC puts it, since its founding, the Communist Party of China has remained true to its original aspiration and the founding mission of seeking happiness for the Chinese people and the rejuvenation for the Chinese nation. Through its endeavors over the past century, the party has fundamentally transformed the future of Chinese people, opened up the right path for achieving rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. Though I wouldn't say that the CPC has always been right, the above statement is absolutely not bragging. To be fair, once the goal is set, once the master plan is there, we will act on it and follow through. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Huang. It's great that you pointed out that many of the foreign media actually did not read through the party documents. You happen to sit with one who read through the whole stack of stuff. But I would like to pick some of the things that's most critical or concerns our FCC community most. In the decision document, it actually mentioned something called improving the mechanisms for ensuring national security in foreign-related affairs. Yeah, like what you rightfully pointed out. A lot of times when we look at the party document, we were puzzled what it is. But after a few months, when the actual policy came out, we were like, okay, yeah, that's correspondent to that. So in this aspect, many of the foreign community in town are concerned. What are the possible moves or possible policies that might move in these directions?
Yes. Actually, as I said, that the resolution is mostly about deepening reform, and it's mostly about economic reform. Yeah. So the priority is economy. Yeah. And you can see all the follow-up actions are mostly about economy. Yeah. So the security is there. As you mentioned, there's one part devoted to it. And actually is foreign-related affairs, national security, but it's broad. Let me give you an example. As we already have Silk Road Initiative for more than 10 years, and we have a lot of investment overseas. And while it is very popular, but it also carries some risks, especially if you have some investment in a foreign country and you don't know their law, their rules, and sometimes there could be riots and even coup d'etat, and your investment could be lost, right? And sometimes we have to do the evacuation.
Right.
Maybe last year there was a movie called Homecoming, which is very popular in China, but it is, although it's a fictional movie, but it is true. Yeah, the embassies and consulates around the world are doing their job to protect Chinese interests in foreign countries, and sometimes they have to escort our overseas Chinese back home. Yeah, so this is security. Yeah, no problem.
Right.
And also, as I said, there's a consular protection overseas. As more Chinese are traveling overseas, more and more tourists, sometimes they will ask for protection. They will contact our embassies and consulates. Yeah, so we actually have a special hotline for this overseas protection 12308, which is at a service 24/7 for Chinese citizens overseas, including Hong Kongers. So this is also security, yeah. And you also know that China is already the target of numerous sanctions and long-arm jurisdiction measures. Well, this is also about security. Yeah. Can you just, because of the sanction of one country, can all the banks and, the business can just give away their data in compliance with their sanctions? No way. We will fight it. So this is also security. So I would say that security is a very broad term. And, it's all foreign related.
Right.
So I think you can put it in a proper perspective, and maybe some of the media will be concerned about data security.
Yes.
Well, actually, there has been a trend, since the internet was invented.
Right.
The more and more data is on the internet, and it is becoming the treasure, and that everybody is seeking after. You have to, as a government, you have to think about it as safety. Well, even as a private person, you have to think about it, whether you are willing to give up your privacy in exchange for convenience, right?
Can I follow up on that?
Yeah.
Because in our conversation with many of the club members who runs business, typically those who are in consultancy line, we consistently hear that there are concerns on the new data security law, etc., making them very difficult to move or more troublesome to move the data out. And some of them say the red line or the definition of what are the sensitive data was not clear. Can you give them some advice on this?
Yeah, about the movement of data, I think China is not the first country to impose restrictions on it. Yeah. I believe there are already some cases that some countries insist on the data of its citizens stay in its own country instead of sold or transported overseas. Yeah. A lot of countries are already concerned with that, and China has the same concern. And as of consultancy firms, well, yes, your business is about data, but sometimes there's a red line. About last year's some cases, yeah, it's already not normal business. Well, it concerns espionage. If you are hiring, if you are asking, your client is asking the so-called expert about how China has J-20, how many J-20s the Chinese military have. It's over the line, cross the line. So there's always a red line there that you can't do espionage. But as long as you do legal business, you should be all right. Yeah, no worry.
Allow me to bring the question back to Hong Kong, where you have mentioned that Hong Kong has been mentioned in the plenum's documents. But in this town, especially when we regularly communicate with the FCC members and the foreign business here, many are very concerned about the town's future, where especially given the backdrop of it might become a front line of China-US friction, instead of become the previously like a buffer zone, where China and US interests intertwined here, and you can carry out track 1.5, 2.0, 2.5 maybe, track of communications here. How do you see that Hong Kong can regain its role, or what's the new footing for Hong Kong?
Yes, we always call Hong Kong as a super connector. And Hong Kong, of course, can play its role. We, as part of China, it has a special role to play. We have Hong Kong people. Hong Kong is well connected with the international business circle, academic circle, and well, besides it's a trade center, financial center, shipping center. I think it's also the media center,
right?
Or it could be the hub of people-to-people exchange. So, well, during the last year, President Xi and President Biden met in San Francisco. They agreed that, well, for the next 5 years, well, China will invite 50,000 American young people to come to visit China. And I think Hong Kong also has a role to play. Well, maybe Hong Kong could be a stop, the first or last stop. And we are inviting people not just to see the mainland, but also Hong Kong. And I can see recently Hong Kong has been hosting many international events.
Right.
Yeah. And those mega events can also attract more international visitors to see Hong Kong and maybe the mainland. Right. The biggest problem is that, well, the image or reputation of Hong Kong and China have been smeared. It is an important task to invite more people to come to see. Seeing is believing. Yeah, so we would like them to come to Hong Kong, the mainland, to see for themselves. Right. So we hope that Hong Kong can play a more important role in this area.
Right. Yeah. Just now you mentioned policy, a great policy where I consistently hear my foreign friends in town who had Hong Kong PR, who have applied the so-called Zheng, the multi-entry visa back to mainland, say it's very convenient. I just want to ask a bit more. For someone like me who haven't got Hong Kong PR, but we hold a working visa here, for foreigners like us, would Beijing consider giving some easier mainland access or similar policies?
I think Beijing is considering it. Yeah, you just keep your fingers crossed.
Sure. Right. I will ask my last question now. We will open up to the floor. All right. as a press club, we are very concerned about the press community in town. And since 2018, we see, unfortunately, Beijing had to respond to Biden administration's measures. So we see drastic reduction of Chinese media in US and US media in China. And in Hong Kong, we also see some exodus of foreign medias. Do you think, is there a way that we can reverse this trend? Or something that we can do about it?
Yes, I think the media can do a lot. Firstly, I think, as I mentioned, that China and Hong Kong's reputation has been smeared over the years. And actually, media is part of it. Media itself has become a problem, especially Western media. The media is not, as keep telling the one-sided story. Well, if you check the Western media, whenever it mentions Hong Kong, 90% of the times it's about national security cases. And it gives the outside world an impression that Hong Kong and both mainland and Hong Kong have become a state or region of surveillance or the police. There's no freedom for travel, no freedom of whatsoever. It's all like a prison. But it's totally wrong. Yeah. But people I don't know why I used to have press briefings for the Western media based here. I would tell them, well, just tell the truth, tell the balanced story, don't just tell the one-sided story.
But that's what.
But well, they still do it. Yeah. So that media itself has become a big problem, and we really need to tell a balanced story. What is happening? Yeah. And I don't mean there's no problem in Hong Kong. Maybe the economy is not good enough, but well, the government is fighting for it. They are trying, right? And well, around the world, how many countries are enjoying good economy? Yeah, many countries are still fighting, not to mention wars, right? And back to the media, I think you also, especially Western media, you can use your editorials to advocate, right? You have powerful tools to stop the war between China and the U.S., and including the media war, right? Well, some Western journalists, especially American journalists, complain to me, well, when can I go back to the mainland? Well, I know there's a war between the two sides. Right. Well, firstly, because the U.S. side imposed quotas or limited numbers on Chinese journalists that can be based in the United States. China was only responding, yeah. Right? And then there have been some measures to rectify the situation. Well, the Chinese side is honoring the promise or the agreement reached to give them multi-entry visa for 1 year, but the U.S. side is not honoring it. Yeah. Well, fine. We can bear that maybe, but we hope that there will be more journalists, American journalists in China and the Chinese journalists in America, yeah, so that to promote a better understanding between the two countries. But the problem is that, well, we can't do much about this. Yeah, although some American media, they want to report on the panda, okay, we can give them J2 visa, which is temporary visa for reporting. That's fine. But we are trying our best. Well, besides editorial power, the media can use, you should talk to your government, talk to your congressman, well, write better balanced report about China and Hong Kong to reverse. Only with all these measures, maybe there's a hope that the worsening trend can be stopped.
Maybe I will open up the floor for 2 to 3 questions. We still have time. Okay, 2 and okay. Emily, would you?
Thank you. Councillor Huang, good afternoon. I'm Emily Lau of the Democratic Party in Hong Kong. You talked about welcoming people coming to Hong Kong to see Hong Kong, and under one country, two systems, Hong Kong people should enjoy a level of freedom, personal safety, and the rule of law, which may not be possible in the rest of the mainland. That's the Chinese government's policy. But in the last few years, we have seen civil society collapsing. Many groups have disbanded, people have left. We've seen an exodus of talents. And recently, I'm sure you're aware, a French journalist was denied entry at the airport. And a journalist from the South China Morning Post has disappeared in mainland, in Beijing.
We can't confirm that. We cannot confirm that.
You cannot confirm, so you don't know what happened. And there are other journalists. The Journalist Association called a press conference a few weeks ago saying some of their members and other journalists have received threatening letters, not only to them, but to their families, relatives, even the employers. So, Councillor Huang, I mean, do we still have freedom of expression, press freedom, all these freedoms that we have enjoyed for so long before and after 1997? Will the central government, will they ensure that one country, two systems, the policy will be upheld, and that the people here, whether they are foreigners or locals, they can continue to enjoy the free lifestyle, which Deng Xiaoping promised will exist for 50 years, and hopefully even beyond? Thank you.
Yeah. Firstly, President Xi Jinping has said that one country, two systems policy will be upheld for the long term. Well, so I can assure you that we stick to that. So I think it means that not just 50 years. Yeah. And for the freedom, well, there are two sides. There's one country and two systems. Well, but don't just look at the two systems. We still have to be one country, and there is always a red line. You can't be against. You can't overthrow the government. You can't advocate independence, right? So there's always a red line, and apart from that, well, you have all the freedom, yeah. So you have to look at both sides, yeah. Just don't emphasize on one side. That's my answer. Thank you.
Julian?
Councillor Huang, Julian Stargard, thank you very much for a fascinating and illuminating talk. We really appreciate it. I'd like to ask a question that ties in with something you've just said about Hong Kong continuing to enjoy two systems within one country for the long term, a theme that ran through your talk. It's one thing for statements and documents to be issued. Might we expect some legislation to confirm this from the NPC? I believe, if I may make so bold as to express an opinion as an expat who's lived here for almost 30 years, that would give a lot of confidence in Hong Kong's future both locally in Hong Kong, but internationally. I think it would serve as an enormous boost. And I just wondered if I might throw that idea out. Thank you very much, Councillor.
Julian, your question is about, will NPC, I didn't catch that.
Is there any possibility that the NPC might pass legislation to enshrine what Chairman Xi, President Xi, has frequently expressed, that Hong Kong's two systems within one country will continue for the long term?
Well, you have to understand in Chinese culture that we don't always express everything clearly in many, many laws. Yeah, it's not like U.S. passing a national defense authorization law with thousands of pages explaining everything. Well, we will uphold it long term. For long term, it already means a lot of things. And I think you have to understand the subtlety. So maybe it's not necessary to explain everything in clear words. Thank you.
All right. One last question.
Thank you. I'm Joël Leduc, and I'm an associate member of the club. So first, thank you very much for coming and addressing to the FCC today. What I would like to ask you is the first constatation that I've seen in China, traveling the past 30 years in China extensively. First, I see, and all the data are showing that the population of China is getting older, with a very, lacking of young people. And at the same time, the last data I could see about the young people unemployment is close to 20%. So there is not enough people, but these young people cannot find job. And at the same time, when I'm traveling in China, I see all my suppliers in factories, they cannot find people. So does it mean that the young people are overeducated and don't want to go to the factory like their parents? And basically this unemployment, I think, could be a big problem, and I would like to know how the Chinese government can address this problem. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's a hard question. I think the overeducation or the young people hard position to find a job. It's just, firstly, the aging problem. It's just not just happening in China, but also Japan, or maybe Korea, and many people, especially advanced economies, they are entering a similar situation. Yeah, that the young people, people are getting old while there are less and less children. Also Hong Kong, yeah, because less and less children. Some primary schools are closing because there isn't enough children. And for young people, well, I also learned that even for American college graduates, it's not easy to find jobs. Although maybe not as severely as in China, but they face a similar problem. And overeducation, especially graduates of arts with arts degree, it's even harder. So, but overall, I think, well, I'm not an economist, and so my idea is that overall the education is a good thing as a bonus, and it's good for the whole society. In China, well, because of the economy, well, it's especially harder for young people to find jobs. Not just young people, yeah, maybe. Yeah,
true.
But people of other ages, yeah. So the first thing for China is to first stimulate the economy. So that's why we have the most aggressive stimulus package yesterday. Yeah, with the water level up, everybody will enjoy. So that's I think that will just address the problem from the root, right? So first, the economy. You have to stimulate up. Yeah. Then, well, I think many colleges are already trying very hard to find jobs for young people, but well, there is, because China is experiencing a structural upgrade of its industries. Yeah, maybe the young people, the young graduates with their major maybe do not fit with the new industry, which requires a different set of skills. Yeah, that is also a problem. Actually, for many societies experiencing transformation, there's always a problem like unemployment, because the old workers, they don't have the necessary skills for new industry. Actually, back in 1990s, my uncle, unemployed because, well, his factory, garment factory was sold to a Hong Kong company, and he was too old, and they only hired the young and the better educated. Yeah, so every generation has this problem. But for the government, they will first try to stimulate the economy. Second, try to equip them with
New skills.
necessary skills. You can see in China, some colleges already, they are removing the unnecessary departments whose skills are old-fashioned, and they are setting up new departments with skills like AI for young people to be better equipped.
Right.
That's my idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Li, last one for the president.
Thank you, Mr. Huang, for choosing the FCC to make your first public on-the-record remarks in Hong Kong. We appreciate it. I want to follow up on part of Emily's question. She mentioned a French journalist. The SCMP reported that French journalist Louise Delmotte, who works for the Associated Press, did not have her work visa extended earlier this summer. And when she attempted to enter Hong Kong as a tourist on September 14th, she was repatriated to France. The FCC put out a statement last month about Bloomberg journalist Hayes Fan, who was also denied a visa to work in Hong Kong. I'm not going to ask you about those cases or any other specific cases, because I'm sure your answer will be, we do not comment on individual cases, as is standard in many jurisdictions around the world. So what I will ask you, can you affirm that credited journalists who work for recognized international organizations will be able to get work visas to live and report in Hong Kong? Thank you.
Well, as you said that, well, I won't comment on specific cases, and actually I'm not aware of the specifics of these cases, so I can't comment. But I think Hong Kong still remains a international media center. So reporters with international media outlets, of course, they can legally work here. But if you check out the statements issued by my commissioner's office not long ago, earlier this month, well, I personally written that statement that there's a limit on the freedom of expression or the media. Media is not above the law. Limitless freedom is the championing of others' rights. Right? Everybody have the right to freedom. Everybody to enjoy the freedom, but everybody's freedom is limited. And it has to be within the framework of law. Nobody is above the law, even though you are the media. So, well, I fully acknowledge the rights of the reporters to do their job, but they still have to work within the law. under the law. That's my idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lastly, I want to appeal that to the press in Hong Kong, both domestic and especially international media, that it is your job to facilitate understanding, not facilitate misunderstanding, and even driving people to paranoia, to new McCarthyism. That's not your job. Your job is to tell the truth, facilitate understanding between the countries and peoples. That's my final appeal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Huang. Let's put our hands together and thank Councillor Huang for the very, very candid
Thank you
exchange.
so much. Thank you.
And Lee, may I invite you to come to, please, come on. Yeah. And we have a very small gift from the club. Lee, come.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.